All right, so let's talk about your stimulus checks. What the hell are they actually? Where'd the money come from, right? So the stimulus checks, and this is both of them, because the two stimulus checks that we got, the one for 1,200 and then the one for 600, in terms of law, it was copy paste. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same law that was used to find the money. And where'd they find the money? They gave everybody a tax credit on their 2020 taxes. Okay, everybody who qualified for the stimulus payment got it as a tax credit for their 2020 taxes. So there are some people out there who are not getting the stimulus checks, who are not getting paid for the stimulus checks, direct deposit or whatever, even though when they take a look at all the requirements, they qualify. So why is that? Back to, like I said, where did the money from the stimulus checks come from? It is a tax credit for the tax year 2020. And the reason as to why some people are not getting them, and they will get them as a tax credit when they file their 2020 taxes, is because the way that they based who gets a stimulus check and who doesn't is off of your 2019 tax information. Because what they did was they said, okay, typically people's tax situations don't change that much year over year. So we'll kind of just base this stuff off of 2019. Hurry up and get these people their money so they don't have to wait until they file their tax return for the year 2020 to receive the tax credit as the benefit. So that gets back to the timing thing. Is it a pro or con as to whether or not somebody is going to get, whether or not somebody already has received their stimulus payments versus the person who has received no money and then they're just going to get it on their taxes? So to answer that question specifically, it's literally just a timing thing. The stimulus checks came from the tax credit that they created through the stimulus bills for the tax year 2020. So the reason, so the benefit, whether it's a pro or a con as to when you get it, is merely a timing thing. The government said, okay, where can we find this money for these people? Let's give everybody a tax credit for the year 2020. Okay, but when are the people going to realize the benefit of that new tax credit for the year 2020? Oh, wait, they're not going to get that benefit until they file their tax return in March of 2021. That's too late. So what they did was they said, okay, let's take a look at everybody's 2019 tax information. That's a decent guess. It's the best guess that we can possibly get for what you'll look like in 2020. And then everybody who qualified in 2019 will assume that their information pretty much gets replicated in 2020, and those are the people who are going to get an advance of this tax credit so you can get the benefit now. Okay? So the stimulus checks were a tax credit. The confusing part to people is just the fact that we got it in advance. Okay? It's no difference. The only difference is the timing of when you would have received the benefit. If you didn't get the stimulus check, you would then get the benefit on your 2020 tax return when you file it here coming up in the next couple months. If you did get the benefit, if you did get the stimulus payment today, you will not see the benefit on your tax return because they already paid you the benefit. Does that make sense? They already paid you the benefit. They gave you the tax credit money in advance instead of on your tax return. So you're not going to see your tax bill go down because they already gave you the money for that. So instead of watching your tax bill go from $10,000 minus $1,000 for your stimulus payment, instead of seeing $9,000 in expense at the end of the year, you're just going to see your normal $10,000 because they already gave you the $1,000 that would have reduced your taxes, but they already paid that to you. It's already in your pocket. Okay, you already received the benefit today, so you're not going to see it directly on your 2020 tax return. But for those people who have not received the stimulus check, you will see that tax credit on your tax return. So now, whether you're getting your stimulus checks just like the majority of people are, which is direct deposit or in the mail, You're getting your tax credit in advance. If you're the person who you looked it up and you seem like you should qualify, but you're not getting your stimulus checks, you're just going to get it on your tax return. And the reason why not all of these are correct is because of the way that they calculated these, who qualifies for the tax credit and who doesn't. Because they just took a look at our 2019 tax information or most recent tax info on file. So your tax situation could have changed in 2020. So let's say in 2019, I think the income limits for this tax credit for a single person is $75,000. For a married couple is $150,000. So let's say in 2019 you made too much income to qualify for this tax credit, right? So they're just going to assume that in 2020 you're going to make the same income. But let's say your income fell down back below the threshold to where you're now in there. They're not going to send you a stimulus check throughout this year, and you probably didn't get one, but when you go to file your 2020 tax return, then you'll get it. Because they didn't know. They didn't know back then because they're just looking at 2019. They don't know about 2020 yet because you haven't filed the return yet. So that's a reason why some people who would qualify, and they know they qualify, are not receiving their payments. Also, it's actually pretty interesting because for anybody who had a kid in 2020, they did not receive the stimulus payment that came in addition into having a kid. I think there was something like, so for a single person with no dependents, your stimulus payment was $1,200. If you were married, it doubled. $1,200 plus $1,200, it went up to $2,400. And then if you had a kid, I think at least in the first one, it was like $600 additional for each dependent you had 16 years old or younger. So for instance, for a single person or a kid, or for a single person or a married couple who had a kid in 2020, the IRS didn't know that because they're looking at your 2019 tax info. So your stimulus check did not reflect the amount for your new dependent that you got in 2020. So then when you go to file your 2020 taxes, you're going to reconcile what your tax credit should have been versus what they already paid you. And then if they didn't pay you enough, because of in the instance of a person who had a kid, you didn't get that extra $600, so okay, here's your extra $600, and you'll see that on your tax return. So those are two situations as to why this stuff can get messed up. Maybe in 2019 you made too much income to qualify, so they're not going to send you the check, but then when you go to file your taxes, it'll reconcile your differences, and then you'll get your stimulus money, and you'll see it on your tax return. Or maybe you had a change in dependents. So yeah, maybe you had a change in dependence. So in 2019, you didn't have a kid. 2020, you have a kid. We looked at 2019. In 2019, you were a single person who didn't have any dependents. So here's your $1,200 and $600. But in 2020, you actually had a kid. So when you go to file that tax return, oh, whoops, we didn't know you had a kid. So here's the extra $600 and $600 for your dependent. So that's why there's differences. That's why some people are not getting the payments when they should. And then that's also why some people are also going to get more money from this stimulus payment when they go to file their tax return because maybe they had a kid in 2020. So I hope that helps a little bit. Really, it's just a timing thing as to why people aren't getting their checks today versus on their 2020 tax return. But it's all the same thing. The stimulus payments came from a tax credit. And really, what they did in the form of the stimulus checks themselves was they just gave us an advanced payment on that tax credit instead of making everybody wait until they filed their 2020 taxes to receive the benefit.